Welcome in to the Building the Pride podcast. I am your host, Drew, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Mike. Mike, how are you?
It's always good on Victory Tuesday, Drew. How about you?
I'm doing well. As in addition, yes, I'm doing great. Nailed it.
Excellent. Yeah. Nailed it.
So, I don't know. I've always loved the term "nailed it." Do you remember Jared Allen?
There were two of them, but yes, I remember both of them.
He was a defensive end for the Vikings and the Chiefs, Vikings, I believe. Yep. And they used to do these little funny vignette spots on ESPN.
Yeah.
And one of them was NFL players showing up at like random fans' doors to like deliver some like holiday message or like breast cancer awareness or something like that. And yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, I mean, it was a minute ago, A6. I mean, come on, dude. And he delivers the line, and then like he's like going to leave, and he does like a little wave, and he turns around and he just screams to the top of his lung. He goes, "Nailed it!" And I remember watching that and thinking it was so funny that he got so overhyped about it. And the other thing that he did that I thought was great was, you know how when you used to watch like Monday Night Football, and they would introduce the starting lineups and they would say what college they went to, like Jared Goff, Cal, or whatever.
Right.
One time he goes, Jared Allen Culinary Institute, and I thought, Jesus Christ, dude, like, it's a real joker here in our midst. So yeah, I've always kind of had a little respect for Jared Allen and the nailed it comment. So I always like to sneak those in there.
Yeah. And Football Hall of Fame earns a little respect as well.
Is he a Hall of Famer? That's kind of amazing.
I believe so. So yeah, he was real good.
Yeah. So
before we start, throw a quick shout out, Kenny 49ers, who popped in the chat last week, official new subscriber. So appreciate you, Kenny 49ers. Yet another non-Lions subscriber, which is cool. We welcome everybody.
We will not stand on ceremony here. We will simply accept you into the community as we are. We like to see the numbers continue to go up. I mean, that's who we are as people. So welcome, Kenny.
Right
we've got a 49ers fan, we've got a Rams fan, we've got a Cardinals fan,
an Eagles fan.
We just need a Seahawks fan. We got the whole NFC West.
Oh yeah. My former roommate lives out there, and I believe he is a Seahawks fan. So I need to get a hold of him and say, like, why aren't you subscribing?
Yeah, come on, Mike. Do a little bit of work to try and get us more subscribers. Jeez.
Right on. So, Chris, if you're out there, subscribe.
Yeah. Mike is the Rams fan. That's correct, A6. So
yes,
he's pulling double duty.
We're in fairness, I'm a Stafford fan. I want to see him do well. I don't care about the team.
News and notes from around the NFL. So outside of the injury news, which is starting to become extensive across the NFL, it's been revealed today that Davante Adams apparently has there has been no contact with the team since their game on Sunday, I believe. I believe they played on Sunday and not Thursday. But
wow.
He has said that, so I always feel like NFL people are so childish when I say stuff like what I'm about to say. Apparently, Antonio Pierce, the head coach of the Raiders, liked an Instagram post that stated the question, has Davante Adams played his last game for the Raiders? Antonio Pierce's Instagram account hearted the question. So, I mean, did his kid have control of his phone? I don't know. But like, if he did that, and now Davante Adams is saying like there has been no contact with the team since the game, like
that's crazy. I did not hear that.
Yeah. So the trade theory that I saw floated today was Julio Jones around this point in his career went for a 2 and a swap of a 4th and a 6th. Doesn't seem bad. It's really suspicious that both of their best players and trade options missed the game. Not saying we are getting anybody, but it sure feels like people are on the move. So this is the way, in my opinion, professional sport teams should tank. I have never believed that tanking is people going out and intentionally losing at any level.
Right.
But if the front office wants to, quote unquote, improve the quality of their draft assets, this is how you do it. You move valuable players off of money to other teams, acquire more draft capital while you improve your draft capital by becoming worse, right? So let's talk about the Raiders just real quick. You have your best, maybe not best anymore, offensive weapon in Devonta Adams going on the block. You reworked Max Crosby's deal to basically pay him $5 million more dollars back in May of this year.
Yeah.
But if you're actively trying to become bad, I have a hard time believing that Max Crosby could be on the block. Like, you made this huge investment in Christian Wilkins in the offseason. You've paired him with Max Crosby. That seems like a good duo for anything. And then, like, their other defensive tackle, who I cannot name, is also playing quite well. And you've at least put a first-round draft pick in the other edge position, even though the guy has not worked out yet. So I feel like Max Crosby is probably not on the block. But, like, Tim Patrick, I was all prepared to say, welcome to the Detroit Lions, Tim Patrick. He kind of showed up, in this and had like very much a what's the dude's name? Josh Reynolds-esque game, against the Seahawks. And I was like, that's all I ever need out of you, dude, is that, like, that's fine. And so do you need to upgrade to a Devonta Adams? It sure would be fun. And there are only 11 teams in the NFL that can absorb his contract at the maximum the receiving team would have to take back.
Right.
And the Lions are like third or fourth in the NFL in cap room. Well, he is right now A6. I mean, like, he is as of yesterday or Sunday. Monday night yesterday. I can do that. So, like, yeah. So Brian also says the best way to tank is to play the young guys you want to see there in the future. And that is another excellent component, is to develop your players, have a developmental season. It's a 6'4" heartthrob with perfect hands. So, I mean, like, I have a hard time thinking, like,
God, if I was just 4 inches taller.
Right. If the Minnesota Vikings are playing literally out of their minds football. Literally out of their minds. Like, no one saw this coming. No one saw this coming. And, like, it almost doesn't matter what metric you're looking at. Like, they're at the top of the NFL. It's unbelievable what they're doing. And so I will be this, but this is the thing about Sam Darnold, is Sam Darnold has played well in 4-game stretches his whole career. Yep. So do we see Sam Darnold historical regression next week? We'll have to watch and see.
Yeah. How much of it is coaching, right?
Right. So here's the other thing, right? And so there's been a bunch of big joke tweets about this, at least recently. Like, Tua goes down in Miami. Mike McDaniel unable to compensate for the loss of his quarterback. But guys like, Kevin O'Connell in Minnesota, here come, JJ, you let go of, what's his name? Kirk Cousins. And then you draft JJ McCarthy. He gets hurt. And you had brought in Sam Darnold for a veteran backup, right? Well, Sam Darnold is playing as well and probably better than any quarterback in the league through 4 games. So the dude's great. The dude is playing just great football. And Kevin O'Connell has a lot to do with that, in my opinion. Like, you just can't.
Yeah.
You can't explain it away, So is it officially F those picks season? For whom?
For us. Right, where we can start trading picks for guys like Devonta Adams or whoever else that might become available.
So
I'm assuming the Detroit fan man, that's what you're talking about, right? Are we in that, like, just let's do it? Let's give up these assets. We don't need them. We've got a good young team. Let's win now.
So
Correct
here's
assumption.
this. I do think that front offices. He confirmed your thought. I do believe that front offices should change their approach to roster building depending on what cycle of their roster they're in. So, like, Detroit has largely been this, like, draft and develop team since Jesus Christ.
Brad Holmes.
Brad Holmes took over,
Yeah.
right? Now, hard to argue with that because they have had so much success with that formula. Okay. But if you are picking somewhere between 25 and 32, which the Lions, yeah, they are one. Thank you, A6. We'll just call them the Campbells. If they're in this cycle, I mean, like, look at the roster right now, right? And so, like, I have been asking the chat and like Hatters, who isn't here yet today, or if he is, he's at least staying quiet, unlike him. He got me what he thought the Lions team needs were heading into the offseason, right? Based upon how they're playing so far through the first 4 games. And like, if you go through the roster, it's a lot like wide receiver 3, Sam linebacker, an opposite edge rusher, depth at safety, depth at defensive line. Really? I mean, I would love
We'll talk about that soon. But I think our defensive lineman,
but I would also love to have Devonta Adams.
Yeah. Who would you rather have, Devonta Adams or Max Crosby?
I would probably rather have Max Crosby because I feel like in that particular example, Max Crosby is a top 10 pass rusher in the NFL. Metaphysics.
Welcome. I don't recognize that name. They're willing to ship off Devontae. What are the chances of Crosby going somewhere?
I think they're very small. They're very, very small.
They put a lot of money into it. Yeah, and you have to have somebody.
Yeah,
right. You can't just go like tear it all down. We have no stars, right? You have to have somebody to build off of and have as a foundational piece.
So the thing about Las Vegas in particular here is that, like, if they were to trade Devonta Adams, you have, I think it's Mike Myers, who I wanted the Lions to take in the second round, and then they took Laporta. Now that's worked out for the Lions, so no shade. But like, I liked him coming out of Notre Dame as a tight end. You then took Brock Bowers this year, so you can run any 2 tight end set you want. So okay, but your wide receiver core not all that good, right? If you take Devonta Adams out of it, so like, if you get, let's say they get the exact Julio Jones trade, they get a second round pick and they upgrade their pick from a 6th to a 4th. That's probably 2 players that you can add to the skill position group. And Devonta Adams is the cheaper guy to trade. So, I mean, like, I just don't think that Max Crosby is the potential of him being traded is right there. Hey, Kathy, what's up, man?
Hey, Kath, happy Tuesday, Victory Tuesday.
For saying on his podcast, if there was one team that isn't the Raiders, it'd be the Lions. Also, the Eastern Michigan connection, he has a home here. So that's all to the good, But like, if he meant that, then he should have forced his way into free agency, and and said, "Hey, Lions, I want to play for Detroit." Now he can demand a trade. Like, players in the NBA do this shit all the time, where they basically like, I will. Here's my wish list of teams I want to go to. Let me just.
The NFL does that too. Let's be real.
Well, right, and that's my point: is that professional sports have gotten to this place where, if you're decent enough and there's enough demand for you, you can dictate where you go, basically, right? But like, what are you guys willing
mid-contract?
Yeah, I mean,
to me annoying. Like, if you sign a contract, that's a commitment. And if you're not going to keep that, it's kind of douchey. You gotta get over that. I know. It's just like, if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. Like, if I commit to something, that's just the way that I am. So it annoys me when I see people that sign a contract, commit to a thing, whatever that contract is, and then they get cranky 2/3 of the way in or halfway in. And I'm just like, negotiate it better up front then if you think that you're going to be better than it, right? Are you going to give them money back if you played like garbage 2 years in? No. So just live up to your commitment. And it drives me nuts that they don't. But I get it. It's a sport. It's also a business, and they have a very limited window. So I get where they're coming from in that regard.
So this year, Max Crosby's cap number is $30 million. Now I'm on Over the Cap, and I plugged in trade post June 1st. And the way it reads is that the Raiders would take a $5 million dead cap hit, and they would save $25 million, which I believe is the number that the receiving team, Goff was great, by the way, Dr. Detroit, you nailed it. I believe that's the number the receiving team has to absorb, which is, now there's some play there because we have 15 people in chat. I don't know that we've ever had that many people. I would touch some things. Yeah. Some things don't need to be said out loud or typed in chat. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But or just go with the classic. I would be super excited. Dun, 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 you know, one of those bonanza kind of deals. But
he's going to give himself a high five, is what he's talking about.
That's what he meant. That's what he meant. Yes.
So you don't have to confirm nor deny that, Dr. D.
What? I mean, but like, if I were the Raiders, I would ask for 2 1s for Max.
Oh, Crosby. For sure.
You know, like.
And if you were the Lions, would you do it?
No, I would not do it for 2 1s.
Oh, you would? See, I would, because I think our ones are going to be in the late 20s, early 30s. And I think we're going to get more help from Max Crosby than we are from those 2 picks.
So I'm just going to look at it a little bit different way. Like, I have a hard time arguing that point, Mike.
Yeah.
I think that that's probably correct. But here's what I'll say. Like, that is 2 potentially 5-year contracts that are cost controlled. And like the way that the roster is headed, I think that the Lions, in order to maintain cap flexibility, are going to require high draft pick, cost controlled contracts. So, like, I agree that Max Crosby would be an exceptional addition to the Detroit Lions squad and is the exact kind of player that, like, the Detroit Lion fan base and organization would value. And I would probably even agree he's probably worth 2 1s, especially if you are, trying to pick somewhere between 25 and 32 for the next who knows how long, 3 years at least, right? But like, I do think it runs contrary to what the Lions have showed us they value when it comes to roster building. There's nothing to say that they can't change, but my impression of Brad Holmes is that he's more likely to dip his toe in with like mid-round compensation before he starts handing out 2 1s,
Yeah. Well, I think that's definitely more likely, right? Or maybe even a player too.
So 4 teams in the NFL. I mean, who plays on natural grass? The Bears, the Dolphins, the Cardinals, right? Because those are all outdoor stadiums.
Buffalo.
Packers. Buffalo is outdoors. There's 5.
Yep.
That's a real possibility, Buffalo.
But that feels like cement in the winter.
So, I mean, like, unless Max Crosby comes out and, like, Antonio Pierce loses the locker room and Max Crosby, like, goes to the team and says, I want to be traded. I have a home in Detroit. Trade me to the Lions. Figure that shit out. Like, I just don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, make it work kind of thing. The
Ravens play outside?
I believe so.
Oh, yeah. It's kind of a half. It goes up.
Pittsburgh's outside too, isn't it?
Yeah, you're right.
A lot of these northeastern seaboard.
Well, they got built a long time ago.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
We have too much talent to keep it all coming 2 or 3 years. But like Brad Holmes has literally said that he wants to continue to build like this, even though I don't know that I completely disagree. I mean, like, what is the difference? What is the difference of trading a future 3rd and a future 4th for Sione Vaki and Giovanni Manu and giving one of them a redshirt year, or using those picks to go get Davante Adams. Like,
right.
I think that you fill more holes and you have more cost-controlled contracts on your roster, on your cap. But like, I don't think that those two players are ever going to be at the. If you took Sione Vaki's pinnacle of his career and Giovanni Manu's pinnacle of his career and added that shit together, it's not who Davante Adams is right now.
Yeah.
So I mean, like,
and even with Max Crosby, I think that we're going to be able to absorb that contract, right? Because we can always restructure it as well. We can add a void year or two.
Yep.
I think they've done a really solid job of structuring their payouts, their larger payouts. Goff's big year is not the same as Sewell's big year, which is not the same as St. Brown's big year, right? So, and with the cost or the cap going up over the next several years, the foreseeable future, I think we could probably handle Max Crosby and his cap hit, as well as Davante Adams as well, in any kind of trade scenario. The question is, I just don't think that I don't think Max Crosby is going to be coming available. Davante Adams might, and I think he's probably going to be, like you said, he's going to be the cheapest both in draft capital costs as well as contract costs.
Yeah, I agree. So, I mean, shockingly, like you and I have opinions where we differ about football.
Yeah.
It's just not this one.
Yeah. So let's talk the Lions, because yesterday's game was we're on Monday Night Football, so we get the spotlight.
The jerseys were sick.
They were great. I loved the helmets. I liked the black and blue. Like I thought the jerseys were good, but I really loved that like baby blue, powder blue helmet was super nice. So I was pretty pumped to see that. So here we are. We're on the big stage, and we scored 6 touchdowns. Right, we win 42-29. Whoops, let me pop that up there. And we had some big performances. Goff was perfect. Hutch was a machine out there. He was just an animal. Kirby Joseph had a great game, with a pick in the end zone and some good play in the secondary. Most of the time, our secondary was not great, but Kirby actually played pretty well. You want to start with Goff and talk about his perfect game?
Yeah, it's going to go real quick. Goff was perfect. No notes. Done. Yeah.
18 for 18. He had 2 big time throws. There was one, and Asics and I were talking about this earlier. There was one play that I think he missed somebody downfield and kind of checked down to a shorter pass. But I thought he did what we needed him to do. He was on target. He was sacked a couple times, and A6 gave me a lot of shit during the game because I'm like, oh my gosh, I wish we had a quarterback who had just a little bit of mobility, because he's like, stop that right now. And I'm like, okay, but he played really well, I thought, most of the game. And even though he was 18 for 18 for 290 change yards, 2 touchdowns, he still didn't get a perfect passer rating, which is dumb. Mean, like, what the fuck? It's a bad math. It's a bad math formula.
Hey, what's up, Zakwa?
Because
I hate passer. We've talked about how much we hate passer rating as a stat.
It doesn't matter. It's just it's a formula that takes nothing into account. It's like the fact that he never had an incompletion. There was no throwaway. There was no drop. There was no bad pass. I mean, usually one of those things happen, right? You either have a bad pass. Now, granted, we had a couple bad passes that were incompletions that ended up getting called back for penalties, and we got another, the down didn't count kind of thing. But usually there's some sort of throwaway. There was a pressure, or maybe a receiver drops it or something. And as Danny says, the reason is his touchdown percentage was 11.1% of his passes, and it needed to be 11.8% to reach the perfect passer rating. And those are the kind of things that just drive me nuts. And how, to me, it just kind of tells you that this is not a metric that actually matters.
What are you talking about?
Your metric isn't 0 to 100. It's to
how many times
153.8.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so dumb.
I do kind of agree with Meta here that, like, I didn't understand where the line was. What's up, Joseph?
What's up, Joseph?
I didn't understand where the line was with the calls.
Yeah.
Because it was like, because each team had an offensive pass interference penalty that to me was like, okay. And then the cornerbacks on both teams were like assaulting each other. And some of it, I mean, they called plenty of them, but like some of it was let go. Like, oh, just let them play. Yeah. Like Brandon Joseph straight up destroyed DK Metcalf in the end zone on one play. And I was just like, I mean, he should be brought up on charges. I mean, for what he did to DK Metcalf. But like 2 for 2 passing sounds like the Wolverines, but just cannot throw the ball right now. But I didn't get it, you know. Anyways, I did think that like it was still fair. Like we had an offensive pass interference, they had an offensive pass interference. It was the same exact thing, so at least they were calling it down the line, I thought. But like penalties are certainly something that Detroit has to clean up. Like you can't. That
was the worst part of the game. Was the secondary.
Yeah, you're not supposed to win when you commit 10 penalties. You know, like. Yeah, no, I agree, A6. But like, if it doesn't get called, it doesn't matter. So maybe finally now the fools will stop with the Hendon Hooker talk. No, they're fools.
They won't.
So they won't. You're missing the key adjective.
Yeah, I thought the pass interference calls, I would say 8 out of 10 of them, like 80% of them, I thought were legit, very obvious calls. I thought they were probably on each team. There was probably 2 that I thought were real sketchy, and maybe it was just a bad angle by the ref. But I thought they were kind of poor calls. But overall, man, we just couldn't keep our hands off of each other, and it cost both teams a lot of yards. And even outside of those calls, our secondary played like crap. If it wasn't a pass interference call or a holding call, it was a completion, it felt like. And it was just like, can you just stop these guys, please? And they just, I mean, I think he had 56 passes.
Yeah, I mean, they were completely
Geno Smith did? Jesus. Yeah.
I mean, but like, here's the thing. They did all that, and they passed for 400 plus yards or whatever it was, and they gained over 500, and they lost by 15 points or 13 points or whatever it was. Should have been 15 points. But like, I just don't think it matters. So I agree that like Terrion Arnold and Carlton Davis have got to clean up the holding. And like that needs to be a focal point in practice. Give them oven mitts or whatever you have to do in practice to get them used to not grabbing. Like, I don't know what it takes, but like Terrion Arnold is a rookie and grabbed in college, and that is going to have to be coached out of him, and it may take years. And I think that Geno Smith is a really good quarterback. And like, if people don't think that, then I just beg them to go back and watch last night's game again, because they didn't even run play action last night. They just snapped the ball and he threw it.
Yeah.
And like
quickly, he had to do it quickly too.
Right. And this is the thing, is that like Hutch had 15 pressures, and which is an ungodly number, but like he had 15 pressures and no sacks. You know, that we did end up sacking Smith 3 times, one of which he fumbled, right? And that set up a score. But like, I just think that like, this is the NFL, and like, it's about, I don't give a shit what you do in between the 20s. But like, when it comes to like red zone defense, like that's where a defense is going to have to make their salt now, when it comes to like whether, and like the defense this year has given up around 20 points a game. So they gave up 1 more touchdown, 9 more points than they would otherwise have given up. They didn't give up the safety, but like goes against them. Yes, Kirby whiffed on that blitz. It reminded me completely of when Derek Barnes missed Dak Prescott in the end zone.
In the end zone,
He hit CeeDee Lamb for like the 91-yarder or whatever. Like, I don't get this. Like, just aim for their fucking ribs and turn them into dust. Like, but like, you can't go up high on a dude like Dak Prescott or Geno Smith and expect to bring them down when you're Kirby Joseph.
Yeah.
He's just not that big, so you can't go high. But like, so there were little things like that, and like the thing about Geno was he took a play like that, got out of the pocket, and got a first down out of it. And like, I think against 22 other quarterbacks in the NFL, we talk about the Lions defense like they played an unbelievably stellar game last night, because the overwhelming majority of quarterbacks in the NFL can't do what Geno Smith did last night, which was to get the ball to his playmakers. And like, we played so much off coverage last night compared to what we actually play. It just felt like we were in zone all of the time. Because
I believe they were statistically the best passing team against man coverage in the NFL. And I think because of that, we're like, we should probably not do that. If they're really good at that, we should try something a little bit different. We struggled with tackling yesterday. It was the worst tackling game. Yeah. He was, and he has been really sure. And this was the worst game I've seen him play tackling wise in like 3 weeks, basically in the 3 years here. And I remember messaging A6 during the game. I'm like, why can't we tackle? And his response cracked me up. So I'm going to throw this out there. He's like, kind of feels like when Kenneth Walker gets running full speed, people have been making business decisions. Right. And that cracked me up. And I'm like, yeah, maybe. You don't want to just get trucked and get injured trying to tackle that dude, because he was a beast. But yeah, we real struggled in the tackling department.
Yeah, because we were the top-rated tackling team in the NFL per PFF through 3 games, and I was just like, there were so many like fingernail close tackles and dudes overrunning the play and taking bad angles and then not wrapping up. I just kept thinking, every time I saw a missed tackle, I was like, why did Brian Branch get sick? Why did Brian Branch get sick? Where is Brian Branch? Brian Branch would have made that tackle. Ugh. Yeah.
When we look at the grades for the tackling, the ones that are in the 40s and below, safety, linebacker, cornerback, and Hutch actually had a real low tackle. He missed a couple, must be. But like, I mean, some of the guys, Reeves Maben, he was only up for 18 total snaps, but he did well. Terrion Arnold tackled well, but having this many in the red is just, that's a bad deal.
Meta brings up a good point here. Like, I think that was a product of our offense success in the second half. We scored too fast. They scored really fast. Yeah. And like, I do believe, like, having grown up in the Midwest and watched football being played in the Midwest my entire life, like ball control, grinding you down, like that's just a staple of football. And like, I believe Kirby is spelled with an E. Yeah. You're killing me. Why are you like this? So I do think that the defense, I mean, I don't know what the time of possession was. Well, I guess we do know what the time of possession was, because we can just measure it by how much time the offense had the ball. But like, I am almost certain that the Seahawks had the ball more than the Lions. They ran like 15 more plays.
Yeah.
So I mean, like in this game, that's like 2 whole drives. So it's like to win by 2 scores and have them have 2 more drives than we did is a real testament to like offensive efficiency, which was great. But this is the first game of the year the offense looked better than the defense.
Yes.
So like, to me, which way do you want to win?
I don't care. I just want to win.
I mean, I like winning too, but I think that the better version of these 2 things for the Detroit Lions is how they looked against Seattle, as opposed to how they looked the first 3 weeks of the year.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think the adage is defense wins championships. Now you can't win a championship unless you're, without a good offense, unless you're the 2002 Tampa Bay Buccaneers or the Joe Flacco led Ravens, which weren't offensive juggernauts, although they played well offensively. But like high defense type teams. Lately, you really need to have good both offense and defense. So we need to make sure that our defense, like I thought our defensive line played great. We ended up with 37 total pressures. We had this list 4 sacks, but I think 2 of them are half sacks. But we had 37 total pressures.
We had three total sacks, one of which was a half sack to McNeil and
Onwuzurike.
We have not talked about Onwuzurike yet this year. He's played good.
Yeah. I mean, 63.7 isn't bad either.
And he is like averaging like 4 pressures a game. Like he's played good. Like good enough to warrant continued play. So,
and Hutch had 15.
It's just sick. It's just a sick number. It's just so sick.
He had a 91.2 grade. A lot of things that we talk about on this show is some of the analytics around our players and draft value, all that kind of stuff. So it's always fun watching our guys get really high grades. So defensively, like we have a real good chunk that are basically above 63, which is where you start getting into you had a really good game with Trevor Nowaski. Is that how you pronounce it?
I don't know. They only scored 27 points. We scored 2 of their points for them. Like, let's be real.
That's true.
We'll go with Nowaski. That's fine.
Yeah. So he was only on for 8 snaps, but those 8 snaps he played really well. McNeil played well. Kirby played well. Robertson played well.
Look at fucking Campbell's coverage grade. Yes, boss. That's what I want. That's what I want.
And he was the guy that forced that fumble too on DK Metcalf. He came in and just popped him right into the ball.
Yep.
Which is where you need to put that helmet in that shoulder, right? So I love to see that. I love to see Goff playing well, being accurate, making smart decisions. On the offensive side, Goff had an 80.9. That's pretty solid.
It's real good.
Laporta showed up. Good to see him.
Yep.
87. Tim Patrick, I think, is our pretty clear number 3 wide receiver at this point.
Detroit.
Yep. I'm surprised Sewell only had a 75.3, but I'd have to rewatch it again. But I think he played all right. Like we have a lot of guys in the green on the offense.
Him being below 50% completion Purdy in passing is silly. What? Did AI write this? What's going on?
No, AI would have made sense.
Right. What does that mean?
Him being below 50% completion. Being below Purdy?
I don't know what he's trying to say.
I got nothing. Well, ASICs can rewrite that and make it a little bit more clear. Communicate. Purdy had a higher PFF passing grade than Goff. Okay.
Brock Purdy has been like the most efficient passer in the NFL for like 3 years. So the previous 2 years and then this one. He also completed about 50% of his passes this weekend. Right. I get it. And if like PFF grade was based upon completion percentage, I would completely agree with you.
Purdy was 14th and Goff was 8th. So I'm not exactly sure where unless you're talking about the overall score for the season.
On the season. Yeah.
Oh, well, then I don't think that necessarily this game doesn't have anything to do that. But yeah, so Drew and I were actually talking about that earlier before the show about like, all right, so Goff had a perfect game, right? And he didn't have Jim Joyce to screw it up and say he didn't. Like Jim the Tigers. Joyce. Yeah, remember the perfect game that was not a perfect game by the Detroit Tiger pitcher?
Oh, the ref.
Yeah, the umpire.
Because it was Galarraga, wasn't it?
I believe so.
Mondo Galarraga. Yeah, that was a real shame.
What was Amon's passing grade? I'll look at that in a minute, Danny. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. But like, so we were talking like, all right, so Goff had a quote unquote perfect game, right? He went 18 for 18. He had 2 big time throws, no turnover worthy plays. How can he only be at 80.9 and at 8th best? And I think, one of the things that they talked about, if you go back to our old, I think it was our like 12th or 13th video that we ever did, where we had the PFF guys on, and they talked about how that process happens, and they take all the every play and they grade on a -2 to +2 scale, and then after they do that for every single play, they what they call normalize the data across all the other quarterbacks. So the thought being, okay, Jared Goff was 18 for 18, but if we take a look at his play pattern or his throw pattern, he only had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them over 6 yards. Everything was short. None of them were particularly hard. They were little dumps, and that's fine. That's what the defense gave us. Almost any college quarterback could have made almost all those throws. So is it really one of those things where you can say like, oh, well, he needs to be at like 99 or something or 100% because he was 18 for 18 without taking into consideration how other people played relative to him and like how challenging were those throws? What was the defense? I mean, if our guys were open by 3 yards and everybody else's throws, they were real tight coverage, like that those are the kind of things that they go into when it comes to that score and how they quote unquote normalize that data. And I was really kind of curious to see what these stats were and how many of them were short. Like his average depth of target, I think we found was 4.3 yards. Whereas a lot of these other guys are going to be much higher. It's got to be super low. But if that's what the defense gives you and you take it every time, I don't care what that does to his grade. Keep making the passes, keep completing them, keep moving us downfield. And that's all we really care about is does that get you to the W?
He played really well. I like it when he plays like this.
Yep.
I want to talk about David Montgomery.
Let's talk about money.
I love him. And I think at this point, I'm always going to love him. And when fucking Devin Witherspoon...
the engine for our team.
Yeah. When Devin Witherspoon tried to tackle him and Monty didn't move and Devin Witherspoon looked like he was thrown into the ground by a Greek god, it reminded me of playing Tecmo Super Bowl and when people try to tackle Christian Okoye. Look at this. What the fuck are you talking about?
Let's watch that again.
Are you serious? Boom. I'm amazed.
This was such a great run.
Okay, so like, I just love him, and it, like, I guess he did take a step back. My bad, but like, that's just hilarious. I mean, I really want it to be like a GIF that I can just put on. That I can just text to people. Like, that's a horrible take. Like you're like hashtag Witherspoon, and then just like testing the GIF. But like
it's a GIF. It's
whatever. Shut up.
GIF.
Stop it.
Graphics interchange format. It's not when we start calling it graphics. then we'll go GIF. But yes. Anyway, sorry. I'm a tech nerd.
I can't. Thank God that you were able.
It's a hill I'm dying on, by the way.
I couldn't believe it when I saw it in real time. It looks so much worse in real time.
Yeah.
I'm starting to think that, like, because his contract is up after next season, I'm starting to think that you have to resign him. Like,
Monty?
I just don't know that you can let that dude go. You probably have to sign him to another 1 or 2 years because he'll be getting close to his age 30 season at the end of this deal, I believe. I've got over the cap up here. But he is 27, so he'll be 28. So, yeah, you can sign him for another 2 years easy. But all credit to Jahmyr Gibbs, who I like, and I have to feel like I have to qualify this every time I talk about David Montgomery. I like Jahmyr Gibbs. You're doing great. Everybody's on par for their best careers ever, or best seasons ever. And I still think that you have to give the ball to David Montgomery more than what you're doing. Like, Jahmyr Gibbs is very clearly the lightning in the Thunder and Lightning, and he's certainly capable of like explosive, like 10+ yard plays. And I just think that David Montgomery continually puts you in better down and distance. And therefore the offense just can be more flexible and run more of those plays that they like to run, and like get Jared Goff into a comfort zone where he's not asked to do as much. And I just think that, and like, I don't know what the answer is, but I would be something like 55, 45, 60, 40 Montgomery to Gibbs at this point. And like, Gibbs would have blown away Montgomery in yards from scrimmage, would have doubled him up in this game if it wasn't for that Devin Witherspoon play.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Gibbs can do it, but like the number of plays that like Gibbs gets in between the tackles and falls forward compared to what David Montgomery does they're just not comparable. Like,
right.
He certainly, like, I remember Troy Aikman on the broadcast last night was Gibbs had like an 8 or 9 yard run, basically like right through the A gap. And I remember Troy Aikman was being like, oh yeah, this guy can really like lower the, level the boom or lower the lumber or whatever the hell the saying is. And I was like, yeah, he can do it. If he's got 8 yards of get up to speed power, I mean, like, then he can actually lay a shoulder into you. But like, if you are a defensive tackle and you try and you get David Montgomery 1 yard into the past the line of scrimmage, he's going to get 3 yards, and I just think that like the number of times that you can pull off an 8 yard run with Gibbs are just not as many as like the number of like 3 to 5 yard runs that you can get with David Montgomery. And I just think that it sets up the Lions so well to run the kind of intermediate passing attack that they want to run, that, well, first of all, things are working right now. So like, this is a very small concern.
Yeah.
But like, I do wonder if it's something like they go really Gibbs heavy, like week 7 or whatever. And then like, oops a daisy, like they are just not a very good team at converting. I mean, who is at converting at 3rd and long? But then they converted 50% of their third downs in this game. There were only 6 of them. So, I mean, like, They got most of their first downs on first or second down. But I just love David Montgomery. That the clip that you showed is the exact reason why.
Yep.
Big fan of Jahmyr Gibbs. Wouldn't have taken him at 12, but.
Yeah, Brian's like, Monty's a power back that does everything else, while Gibbs is an elusive back who is really good between the tackles. That's why we can run largely the same plays regardless of personnel.
Right. Yeah. So like, yeah, but like, and this is the thing that Zake was right. I mean, that is the number, and it's because he'll go 2 yards, 2 yards, 12 yards, and David Montgomery is just going to be like 4 yards, 4 yards, 4 yards. That it's that kind of thing. And like Zake was right. And if Jahmyr Gibbs was getting you 5.3 yards per touch or per carry or whatever, then yeah, go with him. But the point that I'm trying to emphasize here is that like these averages, which Jahmyr Gibbs is clearly ahead in, are like, there is a distinction between these two things, between like the down and distance that the Detroit Lions offense has to work with on a consistent basis when David Montgomery is in the game, and like the explosive play opportunity when Jahmyr Gibbs is in the game. And like balancing those two things is very difficult. And I wouldn't want that job, but Ben Johnson's very good at it. All I'm saying is that like, I don't think that Jahmyr Gibbs gets the opportunities that he gets unless David Montgomery is setting the offense up to be efficient. So like, and like 4.3 is nothing to sneeze at.
Right.
So like, it's real good. But there are times when like the offense is like really moving well, and then they go to Gibbs like second half of the first quarter, early second quarter, where he's the primary carrier. And like then the down and distance goes to like it's 2nd and 9, it's 2nd and 8, it's 3rd and 6, and I'm just like, these are different types of plays that you can call.
Yeah,
but I mean, but like Gibbs keeps Monty fresh. I mean, like if you want a guy to do that, then take a guy like that in round 4. Not
Sione
an
Vaki.
Offensive weapon like Sione Vaki, not an offensive weapon like Jahmyr Gibbs, right? So if you want to just spell David Montgomery, and once again, not hating on Gibbs, think that he's doing a really great job. He does offer he is a matchup problem. He offers you a varied array of things that you can do, including hook and ladders, apparently. But like, I still, and like whether they run fake punts or hook and ladders or the Philly special or whatever it is, they do these almost once a game now, and they have largely worked out. And unless there's something that's quantifiable that I don't understand, hey, James, run action, yes, it's a thing. All right. Unless the Lions are picking their opportunities at just the absolute optimal times, like these kinds of trick plays just are not sustainable to me.
Do you want to see some breaking news?
Did he get traded?
The Raiders have informed other teams that they would consider trading Davante Adams for a package that would include a 2nd-round pick and additional compensation.
Yeah, so that's the Julio Jones trade, right?
Yep.
So,
which is crazy, I think. I feel like it should be more, but I guess if the leverage is with the acquisition team, right? Like, he doesn't want to be there, so like we have all the leverage. You want to get rid of them, so you'll just take what the best thing that we're willing to offer is going to be, kind of thing. So,
yeah. Would I would pay a 2 and swap our 4th-round pick, and I don't know that we have a 4th, to be honest, but like I would do a pick swap and a 2 for Davante Adams and not think about it. He's only $13 million against the cap this year, and then I believe he's a free agent in 25. They're not trading him to Kansas City. Stop it. I mean, that's in the division. Like, and I think that that's less of a thing than it has been in the past, but I don't think it works on this level. When Patrick Mahomes goes out and injures his best wide receiver.
Oh my gosh.
That was terrible, horrible. Isn't it? That was horrible. And just the whole situation was horrible, not what he did. But like they're also down. They're down another guy. Oh yeah, Hollywood Brown. They signed Hollywood Brown, so they're down technically, 2 starting wide receivers now, and they don't know how bad Rice's knee is. So there's a chance that he's not out for the season, I guess. But like you can't just trade Davante Adams to the Chiefs. I'd be beyond shocked if that was the
case. Since we were kind of talking about the difference between Monty and Gibbs, I want to take a peek at what Gibbs's runs looked like from Next Gen Stats.
Sure.
Let's do it. So he had 14 carries for 78 yards, 2 touchdowns. His rushing yards over expectation was 10. So basically, they expect him to get 68 yards with those rushes. And as you can see, like, to me, the thing that I think kind of points to what you were talking about, where Monty will go power and then fall forward. Look at a lot of these runs, and then he gets pushed back. Goes, and then he gets pushed back. Goes, and he gets pushed back. I don't have any Monty stats from this week.
Sons of bitches.
I know, right? I mean, Next Gen Stats, I know you got those things in all of their shoulder pads. Show me Montgomery for this week. But a lot of little stuff, right? So 5 yards is right here. He's got a couple longer ones. But there's a lot of these shorter ones. So, to your point, 3 yards here, 4 yards here, 5 yards there, 22 yards here, right? Those kind of things add up. But I think this is the stuff that really sets him apart from Montgomery. Montgomery, these are going to be like hit here, fall forward, hit here, fall forward. or push forward. Let me see if I can find player search. Montgomery. David Montgomery. Let's look at last week. I don't see any, like, especially these short ones, 0 to 5 yards gained, falling forward, going forward, going forward, going forward, going sideways. That's as close to going backwards as I see on this thing. And that's what he brings you that Gibbs doesn't get. That's the extra 2 yards as you fall forward, right?
Yeah, I mean, and like, once again, not disparaging Gibbs.
Oh,
I just think that David
well.
Montgomery is the guy that is like, I think that if I had to put a starting lineup out there for your skill position players, it'd be Montgomery, St. Brown, Jamison Williams, who we haven't talked about yet, and Patrick. You know, and I would just be like, fucking, we're going to get some first downs today, everybody. Like, Jamison Williams, the route that he scored on is exactly the kind of thing that I was hoping that they would do with him. So, beyond thrilled.
Crosser, and then let him run.
Yeah. I did not love the unsportsmanlike conduct penalty that he got. But
you know what? So, like, here, I agree. Because he dunked the ball, which is illegal. It's a penalty now. Yesterday was Calvin Johnson's birthday.
Yep.
And he did that in honor of Calvin Johnson.
Great. You know what?
So happy birthday, man.
Watch. Don't get an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. Like, I get it. I understand the whole thing behind it. It's completely in your control, and you did it anyways.
Yeah.
And like, I if you want, I mean, like, get him a bottle of wine. Or if he wants you to make a donation to a charity, fucking write him. You're a millionaire. Like, write him a check. Yeah. Don't get an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty that you know is a penalty in the game. Like, yeah. I know people are probably going to come out and like get on me for that take, but like, you simply cannot do that kind of stuff in the game. Now, Bates made the extra point. If there was a time in the game to do it, that was the time, because it's the least consequential time to do it. But I understand it was a tribute to Calvin Johnson. I get that it's a tribute to Calvin Johnson.
But is it worth 15 yards and potentially?
I'm not unfamiliar with Calvin Johnson and the dunking. I've watched Detroit sports my whole life. But like, that doesn't make it okay. In my opinion, it doesn't make it okay. So that's, I mean, and that's all I'll say about it, is that like, I don't think that in the game, which is the thing that you are professional about, you do that kind of stuff. Like, you save, if you want to honor Calvin Johnson, like, be a class act, do it. Now, he probably scored a ton of points with like the faithful. So I get it. I understand why he did it.
Yeah. But to your point, it could have been detrimental. Like, that pushes us back far enough where we miss the extra long extra point. And it comes down.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Like, don't put yourself in that position.
Correct.
Is there a different way you could celebrate Megatron without taking a penalty?
I will come up with a list.
You can do that.
Of 10 things. I will come up with a list of 10 things and tweet them to JMO. Like, that ways that that I think that if you even put it on Twitter, or if you told the community about it, like, they would be like, "Oh, JMO, that's so nice." Don't. Or like, wear a patch or something on your jersey for 81 or something like that. You know?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if he didn't know. It doesn't matter if he didn't know.
It's been the rule for 10 years. If he didn't know, that's on him.
Yeah. Like, okay. All right. All done.
Yeah.
What's next, Mike?
What is next? Well, the next thing that we've got is a bye week. So what are we going to do for our bye week? Because we don't have a game to talk about, Drew.
It's time!
It's time for what, Drew?
We're going to do our first mock draft of the new year. I have been doing them for #months. So, but we are going to be doing our first mock draft next week. A, we don't have a game to talk about. B, Hatters cannot hold himself together when it comes to mock drafts. He's just like me. He would do one all the time if he could. So, you had forgotten it was a penalty. That's fair. So next week,
it's not your job though, Brian. So don't worry about it. It is JMO's job.
That is true.
To know.
Very, very true. So if mock drafts aren't your thing, I get it. We don't know the draft order yet. It's the college football season hasn't shaped up to give us like definitively who's the best at the end of the year. We don't know who the Heisman winner is, who the national champion is. People are going to get hurt, all that stuff. We get it. That is not how we're approaching this. We are approaching this from an idea of we are assessing what we think the areas of the roster that could be shored up heading into draft season and starting to get familiar with the people who might be available in March. Okay. So like we are not coming at it. You refuse to learn college players' names this early. And I don't know right now. Well, so we probably won't see you next week, Brian, but that's a real bummer because we're going to have some fun. So
we'll only do the mock draft. We'll have a little bit of other things going on, right? So because we get to also talk about what do we think our needs are for next year, and I think we probably will take a quick review as to where our team is after the first 4 weeks going into the bye week. What are our grades? Who's playing well? We'll probably do a review, but we'll hit the mock draft pretty hard.
Yeah,
Drew's been begging for it for months. Well,
first of all, it's just great. Like, there's no downside to it whatsoever. And like, if you are like me and you watch college football, and I used to watch a lot of college football. I would watch noon, 4, 8 o'clock, and then I would catch highlights, and the whole day, all Saturday long was college football. And I don't do that anymore. Now I just watch the Michigan game and highlights. So I get it. And so like Brian has a point, right? Like there may not be any reason to learn everybody's names. But here's the thing is I already have prospect crushes. Like if you don't know who Torrey Horton is from Colorado State, like you're missing out.
Does he hear a who?
If you don't know who Torrey Horton is from Colorado State, you're missing out. That because if you picture that dude in a Lions jersey, that's a lot of fun, And so I understand that like Colorado State's not a Power 5 conference. I mean, they will be next year, but like they aren't right now. But if you watch Torrey Horton play and you can't picture that dude as a Detroit Lion, like I don't know. I don't get it, And like I do think that there are fun discussions to be had because like some members of the chat have told me what they think the Lions need as far as like holes in the roster, and like I think that the discrepancies between what they think and what I think and what you think lead to good conversations. Like how important is it for a Sam linebacker? Like do the Lions have a 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 5th, 6th, and 2 7th round picks next year? So they have.
Did you have that memorized?
Yes. Actually, I emailed PFF because their mock draft simulator's wrong. They are still counting the picks that we traded for Vaki and Manu as being available to us next year. And so I emailed their customer service department and I tweeted at the guy who runs the mock draft simulator. And I said, the Lions have these picks next year. And it's like 1, 2, 3, 5, a 6th from the Jets and a 7th from Dallas. And I'm like, you guys got to update this. And I checked it today and they hadn't changed it. So they're going to get a real angry tweet tomorrow, so, but like the pro football, like tankathon.com, profootballnetwork.com, they have the correct draft order. So, depending on how many rounds deep we want to go, and yes, we will be doing more than one round. It is a sickness.
3, 5.
Let's go 3. I am up to doing 5-round mocks, but like not everybody might be ready for it now.
Right.
If the chat is really cool and tells me that they want to do 5 rounds, I'll go 5. Okay.
Twist my arm, right?
Yeah. How scary was Bates kicking last night?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. 3 of those extra points were like shaving the edge of the goalpost. I'm just like, oh my God. Can you just put it in the middle? You're 35 yards out. Put it in the middle, please.
I don't care at all. Like they all went in. So whatever.
I was talking about like as the kick was going and sailing to the side. You didn't go.
No.
No.
No. By the way, complaint about ESPN, who I already can't stand. They just fired last week the only writer there that I paid any attention to, Zach Lowe. And so now there's no reason for me to pay any attention to ESPN whatsoever. But can't remember why I'm saying this. Oh, they advertise their goddamn ESPN Plus package all the time. And I go to ESPN last night to just get an update on the game, and it's like the last minute of the second quarter, and they're showing the game on the main page. You can just watch it live. And so I got up and I got like a really cold drink and just came back and sat down and just watched the game. I'm not paying a dime to ESPN, like I don't understand it.
Yeah, Free's my favorite price.
Yeah, free is the best. For 100% free is the best.
Yeah.
Do 5. Yeah. All right. Well, it's what the people want.
That's what the people want. I'm sure we'll probably find the time to be able to do all 5 rounds.
Yeah. Well, so here's the thing, because I've already done numerous mock drafts at 5. It really shows you the texture, because right now they're putting in everybody that's even potentially eligible. So not all these guys will be there when we actually get to the draft. But like, if you think that you want an interior offensive lineman in this draft, you got to take it by round 2, because there just aren't any. After the second round, you will not get them. So, like, this draft is about, so like the last couple drafts have always had like real heavy position groupings. This draft is going to be all about tight ends, corners, running backs are going to be real heavy in this. A lot of safeties. So if you are looking to rebuild a secondary, 2025 year for you. You want to get some good linemen, you're going to have to wait until next year, or you're going to have to do it in free agency, because
what about wide receivers?
So I almost don't know that it matters. I am almost wondering when a team is going to take a Moneyball approach to the wide receiver position, because we have seen even this offseason, like 4 or 5 guys got like what would have been market setting deals at the start of that season. So like the whole position group basically reset itself. But like there is no position group, maybe cornerbacks, in that get as much, that send as many prospects to the draft as wide receiver. It is the most saturated position group in the entire draft. And like, you can get one at any round in the draft that you want. So like, I don't understand why teams don't. And what we have seen, I think,
but where's that drop off?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So like last year you had Odunze, Harrison, and Neighbors, and Neighbors looks like an absolute fucking monster, by the way. And they all would have been the number 1 picks, and any year the other 2 weren't in their class.
Right.
That Patrick will be back. Tim Patrick next season, real good. He might be the 5th wide receiver, but it's real good.
Yeah.
I would
put
it at like 98%. Yeah, he will be cheap, because
he'll be cheap and he'll be a depth guy.
2 years of being hurt, so he'll be like, yes, please. So, and to be honest, I don't need him to do anything more than what he did this last game. I mean, would I like to see more? Yeah, I'd like to see more. But like, if he has 3 catches for 35 yards, hooray! Like, you're Josh Reynolds, dude. Like,
well, and that's kind of what J-Mo did last year, right? He had somewhere between 2 and 3 catches a game, and 30 to 50 yards, depending on if he was able to run for a long time. But he's filling that role for that third guy. That, all right, well, they're going to cover J-Mo, they're going to cover St. Brown, they're going to cover Laporta. Looks like Patrick's open, right? Similar to what Josh Reynolds did last year and what J-Mo did last year as well.
Yeah.
So he'll be back. He'll be cheap and reliable so far.
So here's one thing, Mike, that I would like to try at some point we're not going to do a mock draft every week, but especially during the season. But what I would like to do,
season's over,
we're going to do a lot more of them once the season's over, because that's the content. But we talk about positional value a lot, right? Well, we have in the past talked about positional value a lot, and this year it changed. Like cornerback became the 6th most valuable position. Interior offensive lineman knocked them out. Interior defensive line moved up as well, right? So, and we saw players on the open market in those two groups get big money because they're available. And I am wondering if we would start seeing attitudes towards those position groups change. And the way that we see it change is where they're prioritized in the draft. So are we going to see defensive tackles? Are we going to see guards get even higher up the draft boards? And like, especially because there might be positional scarcity at those positions. And we have talked about earlier in the season, like passing is down in the NFL and has trended down for like the last 3 seasons or more.
Yeah.
You know, and like this week I saw touchdowns through week 4 in the NFL this season is way down, almost half of what it was 4 years ago, 2019. So like, 4 or 5. But but like one of the reasons why it's being hypothesized, well, we just went from 10 to 4. You just talked about passing going down and everyone leaves. But like you talk about like passing in the NFL going down, what's contributing to that? Is it because offensive line play is not as good? How important is
part
it to have? Yeah, how important is it? Is it more important right now to have a good offensive line than it has been in the last 10 years? And like Joseph just said, build the trenches. It's good management. Can't argue with that. I very much believe that. You know, and like,
looking at what we've done, building on our defensive line, building on our offensive line. Penei Sewell, obviously he may be a top 3 player regardless of position in the NFL right now. Decker's played really well. Ragnow's great. Zeitler's played well. Like our offensive line is probably the best offensive line in the league, and it has been the last couple years, yet last year and this year especially. And then you start looking at what the Rams have done, right? They went out and they signed Jonah Jackson from us, and they got Alaric Jackson on as their left tackle. Like they kind of rebuilt. They drafted Steve Avila for a center position, but they've been decimated with injuries, and they've got like 11 guys on IR, and just. If they're not on IR, they're not dressed because they're injured or something. And they can't run very well at this point. They can't keep Stafford upright because they are on top of him. And so I think it absolutely, it also doesn't help them that Puka Nacua is out and Tyler Higbee's out and Cooper Kupp's out. So like he has no targets either, which also sucks. But I think like just keeping him upright is a struggle for them right now, and their offense is struggling because of it. Not because Stafford isn't a good quarterback or can't make the throws. He has no time. He gets pressured. He gets moved. And I think the offensive line and the injuries that they suffered there are a big piece of why. So, yeah, I think absolutely the offensive line play is, at least for them and even for us, when our offensive line plays poorly, so does Goff. So does, our offense suffers. And I can't imagine that's abnormal, right? It's got to be a big piece to that.
The Bengals are not good. I don't like the Bengals.
I don't dislike the Bengals, but they're
congratulations on your 1-3 season, you Ohio-based assholes. Like,
hey, don't forget we have a Cincinnati Bengals fan that's a sub too. We can't talk too much about it.
Yeah, I hope he's not listening because it's less about.
I'll find out at work tomorrow.
It's less about disliking Cincinnati and more about disliking the entire state of Ohio. I mean,
that's fair.
if Kentucky just annexed Cincinnati, I wouldn't care at all.
Yeah.
So the teams are shifting the game control. Yeah, and Brian's right. Like, teams are shifting because the Vic Fangio too high, don't give up a big play defense has now sprinkled its way through the entire NFL, with coaching trees being changed, with copycat stuff being out there, with teams having years to retool their defenses in order to play it. Like, it's just the preeminent defense in the league. And if you want to take what the defense gives you, it's the intermediate passing game and running the ball down their throats. And that is exactly what the Lions are built to do. So
I hear Bill Walsh is looking at, hey, is it time for me to come back?
This seems conditions seem right,
Yeah, that West Coast offense seems like it's probably a pretty solid choice right now.
So I'll ask the chat. I should have asked this last week in preparation for tonight, so that we could know going into the bye week. But if there is a topic you want us to discuss in the bye week, whether related to the NFL or more importantly to the Detroit Lions, all you gotta do is let us know. So, like, in the chat, YouTube comments, I'll send you Mike's phone number so you can like text him your ideas. We do have a Discord that you could post right?
It is technically still around. It has had basically no activity in a while. So,
to be fair, we've done nothing to promote it.
This is absolutely accurate as well.
But
so,
I don't know if we can put it in the show notes or something, a link.
I'm sure I could.
Discord. Yeah. If you guys have something that you want to talk about, not just leading up to a bye week, but anytime, like, give us what you want. Like, we're not so big that we can't accommodate you, So just let us
know. We love doing mailbag stuff.
Yeah,
I'll get stuff from A6 or some of the other guys through like Facebook Messenger or something like that. So and I mean, for that matter, like because I'll throw something in if you're listening and you're part of some of the Lions Facebook groups that I'm part of as well. I'll usually throw the link to this in there every Tuesday. So throw notes in there, things that you want us to talk about. We'll obviously cover them as well.
Yep. So good win going into the bye week, hoping that Ragnow and everybody that's got banged up a little bit gets healthy. And then Dallas is the week coming out of the bye, and they are banged up all to shit. So, like, Dexter Lawrence is on IR. Micah Parsons has a high ankle sprain. This is the right time to play them if they don't get any healthier. So, like, and I would love to avenge last year's bullshit game in Dallas. So
I want Dan Skipper to report eligible like 10 times in this game.
Well, how surprised or not surprised will you be if they report Skipper as eligible and have him catch a pass?
I would love that.
I can answer the question right now. So it's not.
Is the time to replace AG even though DC loves him?
No, because Brian wants the Discord. Brian's all about it. So here's the thing. The defense has played better than the offense 3 out of 4 games this season. And to be fair, they didn't lose us the game yesterday either. But the Lions and their roster building has simply not prioritized the defense to the extent that they have prioritized the offense. And that is the correct way to build a roster. And I just don't think this is the first year you can argue that Aaron Glenn has had the players capable of running the defense that he wants to run. So, I mean, like, no is my answer. And, like, I don't think that. So I guess the question is, and this is something that we talk about. Mike and I have other hobbies that we are that we share an interest in, Magic the Gathering and that kind of thing. And so one question that we always ask people in that hobby is, what do you replace this with?
Yeah.
So, like, okay, you fire Aaron Glenn, who has been the Detroit Lions defensive coordinator this whole new regime. Who realistically are you going to get that is quote unquote better than Aaron Glenn, who wants to be the defensive coordinator of the Detroit Lions? What do you mean that there's been no improvement on the defensive ball? Did you watch the first 3 games of the season? Like, that's the improvement. Like, they won 2 of those games because of the defense. Because the offense up until this last week was not good. What are the scores, Mike, of the offense this season? What was the final score of the Rams game?
Give me a second here, bringing it up.
Because it was in the low 20s, right?
Rams game was 26-20.
26-20.
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers was we had 16, they had 20.
Okay.
The Cardinals, by the way, going into that game, the Cardinals were the second highest scoring team in the NFL at 38.5 or 37.5 points per game. We kept them to 13.
Right.
And then this week, the Seahawks, the 3-0 going into that division-leading Seahawks, scored 29.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, and here's the other thing. And we talked a little bit about this earlier in the show. So Lions gave up 500 yards in offense, and they gave up another 100 yards in penalties. And I went through the game penalty by penalty, and I figured out like Sue had a holding call. There was too many men on the field. Like, those are non-defensive player penalties, right? But like, look at what they did in the offseason to address the defense. Like, you move Brian Branch to safety. Okay. If he's hurt, if he may never play for the Lions again, like, we don't know. It's very clear now that he should have started the year on the PUP list or the NFI.
Yeah.
So like, but he's not. So you haven't had him, right? He played a great last 9 games of the season last year. You move Branch to safety. So at least he has to adjust to not playing in the nickel. Kirby Joseph, playing the best ball of his career. Good job, Kirby. You trade for Carlton Davis. You trade up to draft Terrion Arnold. You draft Ennis Rakestraw, who has not seen the field yet. You sign Amick Robertson. So you have 4 new cornerbacks on the squad this year, and they have taken every snap. So it is a completely new secondary. We can't even judge that 4 games in, and they're already better than what we had last year. Like, I'm not in love with the penalties that both Davis and Arnold have committed. But if you don't think that a guy who's knock on him in college, that he grabbed, Terrion Arnold, is going to at least start out grabbing in the NFL, that's ridiculous, right? Like, he's going to get better.
So, question for you.
Yeah.
So all of what you just said, 100% agree with, right? And that was one of the reasons why I actually picked up
he
until.
He always does this when he's going to make me mad. He always sets
me
up.
I'm not. I promise.
All right.
Mostly promise.
Right.
I don't know what's going to make you mad, to be honest. But so like going into week 1, I picked Detroit to lose to the Rams until they had their injury issues with their left tackle and their right tackle. Like, one was suspended, one was injured. I'm like, oh well. I think that kind of nudges it in our favor. But like, I picked us to lose that game because everybody in the secondary was new. Branch wasn't new necessarily, but like new working with literally everybody else, right? It was a brand new secondary, and it's going to take a while for that to gel and whatnot. So I thought they played much better than I expected each of those first 3 weeks. This week, a lot of penalties. It wasn't their best showing, right? Including this week. Coverage grade. Where do you think the Lions are out of 32 teams for PFF?
22nd.
12th. We had the 12th best coverage grade in the NFL. One game doesn't make a season. Like, yes, last game sucked. Like, we gave up a lot of yards. We had a lot of penalties. But we can't forget that the first 3 games were all pretty damn good, right? It's that recency bias of like, this is what I last remember. A lot of garbage. I forgot about the previous stuff. So we are the 12th best graded coverage team in the NFL right now.
Now,
it's a great question to ask, Gosford.
It was a good question, Gosford. You did a nice job. Now let's think about who we've played. So you start off the season with the Rams, and you got what 1.5 quarters of Puka. You had Cooper Kupp in that game. So those are, for the time that they both played together, that was a good duo, right? One of the better duos in the NFL. Now, unfortunately, the Rams, so they're all hurt.
Yeah.
Then,
sucks to be them.
Right. Next game, Tampa Bay. You go 3 deep on receiving threats. Mike Evans, probably a Hall of Famer, and Chris Godwin, who looks like he's Chris Godwin from 2 years ago, and their rookie, Jalen McMillan, who just gets to slide right into number 3. Like, that's a good wide receiver core. Then you go to Arizona, right? And so, like, Trey McBride was a breakout tight end. You held him to nothing. Marvin Harrison was the big king shit wide receiver that might as well make him a Hall of Famer right now before he's even drafted. That was the fucking narrative of him coming out of Ohio State, right? This guy's just bloodlines through, for days or whatever. So, like, did a pretty good job on him. And then this last week, you go up against maybe the deepest wide receiver team 1 through 4 in the NFL. If I'm wrong, name me a better wide receiver core. So, like, it has not been easy for these guys. So, like, next week you go to Dallas, right? And you have to worry about CeeDee Lamb. That's a real thing.
And let's confirm everything you just said. Tampa Bay, 12th best receiving offense. Seattle, 9th best receiving offense. Rams, 7th best receiving offense. Cardinals, 6th best. Like, literally all 4 of our teams that we played are in the top 12 for receiving grades.
So, Michael, where is Dallas?
Where is Dallas? Dallas.
Ta-da! So,
19.
Like, they have maybe the best individual receiver that the Lions will have played through week 6. But, like, they're the weakest overall team. Branch should be back. Arnold has had a broken finger, a hamstring injury. Davis got beat up in this game and came back in. And, like, they should all be, I should hope, with 2 weeks of rest, like, they should be close to or closer to 100%. So, like, Gosford, it's a great question. However, I think that you and I are taking different messages away from the way that the secondary has played so far this year. To me, I think that because Robertson, Davis, Arnold are all brand new and getting all starter snaps, the way that they have held up as a rookie and on new teams playing in new defenses against those receiving cores is cause for joy compared to what we have. I am not watching Jeff Okudah. I am not watching what's the kid with the seatbelt gang stuff that I can never remember his name. He was on the Rams briefly.
Amani Oruwariye, right?
He's in Dallas, and, like, thank God you brought him up because he's not on the list anymore. But, like,
yeah, I know who you're talking. I was thinking it was AO, but like maybe not.
J or something. Like, its first name and last name both start with J. Yeah, a Robertson Hazlitt Gate. Who's the seatbelt gang guy? Hang on, I'll go look at the Rams roster because he's on the Rams. Seatbelt gang.
Jerry Jacobs.
Yeah. So, like, I am not watching those dudes start.
It's pretty great, by the way, to not have to watch those goose start.
Yeah, it's been great. And, like, Mike has brought off the Kindle Vilder face mask, Brandon Ayuk catch.
Yep. The helmet catch. Yep.
Joe, this is what we're trying to do here, man. We might as well call our show Perspective, Nuance, and Context. Like NFL.
It doesn't roll off the tongue like Building the Pride does. So
PNC. Let's do it. Right. It's my bank. No. It can be the name of our show. Everything's great. But, like, yeah, the dude is enormous. Like, and if you ever just want to watch how unbelievable DK Metcalf is, watch him chase down Budda Baker last year or whatever, like 93 yards. It's an insane thing. Jerry Jacobs, Brian, thank you. But, like, the talent level in the secondary is better. Like, the investment in the secondary, quote unquote, has finally happened with this new regime. And we are week 4 of this, and, like, Robertson's here for 2 years. Davis is probably going to get re-signed. Arnold's here. Rakestraw's here. Branch is clearly the second best player on this defense, and it's not close.
And he didn't play.
I
I think that's one of the things that we have to think about when we look at this past game was, all right, so our secondary played like crap. They gave up a lot of yards. They had a lot of penalties. How much of that was Brian Branch not being there in the center of that field, right? Allowing some of those things to take place that probably otherwise wouldn't have. So, like, it's tough to say, okay, well, one person made all of that difference. Probably didn't make all of that difference. But I would guess, as well as he played this year, he would have had several plays that were big yesterday.
Or just tackled well.
Or just tackled well, yes. So I think that's something we have to think about when we look at yesterday's performance in the secondary as well.
Yeah, let's look at this group. So this is week 4, right? There's 17 games in the season. So this is week 4. Let's look at them at week 8. You know, there'll only be 3 more games, right? But like, let's look at them at the week 8 or week 9, and we'll see where we stand, right? And if you still are unimpressed or don't think that the secondary is playing better than what we had last year, then we can revisit whether AG needs to go, because then at that point it's like you're not taking advantage of the talent that's been provided to you. And if you can't do that as a coach, then I think the discussion is warranted to be like, do we need to make a change to somebody who is going to take advantage? And like, to be honest, the next guy up is probably the linebackers coach. Is it Kelvin Shepard?
Yeah.
Would you rather have Branch or Davenport? I would rather have Branch. Branch is the better player. By the way, have you guys seen the play that Marcus Davenport got hurt on? The tackle tomahawks the dude's arm.
Oh, yeah.
It looks like he was trying to dismember him. It was gross. Like, you want to talk about dirty plays, I mean, like, that's certainly a play that I think contributes to a guy becoming injured more so than just your standard football play, right? I hated it. But Brian is striking on a topic that I'm starting to become very polarized on, which is that I'm kind of done with the 1-year prove it guys. Like, Marcus Davenport played one game really well. Okay, now he's hurt. Like, you can't predict injuries, but like, there's a lot of guys that they signed at 1-year deals that have injury histories, you know, and like, I have had some.
At least they're cheaper.
They are cheaper. That's 100% true. Can't argue with that at all. So good for the roster.
So before we sign off, question for Drew.
Oh shit.
And for the chat, for that matter. Aiden Hutchinson.
Yeah.
If you remember right, he was one of my preseason picks for Defensive Player of the Year for my bold bets. Total pressures in 4 games.
Yeah.
How many total pressures do you think Aiden Hutchinson has in 4 games?
In 4 games, he has 40.
He has 40. He is leading the NFL. Second place is Zach Allen. How many do you think he has?
He has 23.
Are you looking at it, or do you have it already memorized?
No, I looked at it at noon.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, 23. So, like, he is almost double the second most productive pressure-seeking defensive edge rusher. And he still has more sacks. He's got 7 sacks. Do you know who's second in the NFL in sacks?
Second in the NFL in sacks. Hang on.
Former Detroit Lion.
Former Detroit Lion. That's impossible. I don't. You're going to have to tell me.
Former Detroit Lion, Kyle Van Noy.
Oh, with the Ravens. Yeah, he's got like 5, right?
6 sacks, yeah. So I saw that and I could not believe it. But just to look at like the number of total pressures that Hutch has in 4 games is unreal. So like if he plays 16 games at this pace, that's 160 pressures.
Yep. And Mike, remember they play 17 games.
They play 17 games. That's crazy. Yeah. Last year, I believe the The pressure king last year was Micah Parsons, and I believe Hutchinson was second. They were the only two players, if I recall correctly, over 100 total pressures. Parsons had 103, Hutch had 101, and he's on pace for 160.
Yeah.
It's absurd.
Now,
I love it.
We should provide context on this.
Okay.
Because for all of the great wide receiving cores that the Lions have played, they have played bullshit offensive lines.
Offensive lines, yes.
And like most of the times they have played, the team they are playing against has had their second or third string right tackles. And Hutch will line up over the best. They use him on both sides.
Yeah.
Whatever the play calls for. And he did absolutely abuse Charles Cross once or twice, who was coming into this week the top rated tackle on PFF's grading system. But like, he absolutely has been destroying guys that have no business lining up across from him at all.
Yeah.
So like, he has not played against actual competition.
Yeah.
So
context is the devil.
But because of that, he should be performing like this.
Yeah.
If you're going to line up second and third stringers across from Aiden Hutchinson, he should be doing this.
Yes.
So this, I mean, I don't want to, number one, I don't want to demean what he's doing. Yeah. And number two, I do want to,
because it's still absurd. Like there's still professional football players on the other side of him.
Like, how many games can he just take off and not play and just still lead the NFL? And here's the stat that I think is the best descriptor of what Aiden Hutchinson is doing so far this year. And I think that you still have to provide context to it, is that his pass rush win rate is 35%. He is beating the guy across from him 35% of the time. It is an unheard of number. Like, when we look at like college football edge rusher prospects, we're looking for something like between 16 and 21%. You are a Will Anderson. You are, name your edge rusher. You are Leatu Latu coming out of the draft this season. Like, and he is 10 points, 12 points higher than that, a level of competition up. Like, if he maintains this level of win rate, I think the pass rush, the sacks, the pressures, him being just a havoc back there is ridiculous. And like, if he maintains this, he's going to win defensive player of the year, because there's just too many splash plays that are a result of. And like, the Seahawks threw all over the Lions. They had to. B, they had to. And they were pretty good at it. But like, it is like a Hall of Fame batting average.
Yeah.
You know, but like, imagine if Geno had just been able to sit back there and just assess what the play developing ahead of him and not roll out and not have to get away and not changes. I mean, for whatever incompletions there were, like, are a result of the pressure that, you know, that like the whole defensive front put on him. And like, he still did that. So, I mean, that's when you just have to give it up to Geno for making hard plays.
Yeah. Yeah. And to that point, the worst pass rush grade in the NFL is currently the Los Angeles Rams with a team grade of 39.6. The second worst is the Browns at 48.1. I mean, that's how bad the Rams are. Seattle is 28th in the league at 50.5. So those two we should have just ran all over, which we did. But even the others are not bad, though. Like Arizona and Tampa Bay were 13th and 14th. Middle of the pack. But so they were like terrible, but they're also not the Packers, who have the number one pass block grade in the NFL. And somehow Carolina has the second best pass blocking grade.
No, wrong. No.
It's true. With an 80.4.
No. No.
So, but the thing is, you can pass block like crazy, but if your quarterback still sucks, then you're wasting him.
Yep. So. Like all in all, I'll say, just to kind of wrap this up, because Mike wanted to keep this to an hour.
And we're going on hour 40.
That's right.
All right.
So, are you saying that I look like Patricia? Fuck you, dude. Are you serious?
I'm like, wait for it. Oh, there it goes. He found it.
That's it. We're done. Like, I get it, though. I can kind of see it.
Drew wants to ban you, and I'm going to keep you in for life.
Oh, so terrible. I don't deserve that. Who deserves that? Patricia. He's on Belichick's show now. Like, go hit them up on their comment section.
Funny.
Bro. Not me. Come on, dude.
That was funny. All right. Next week we got a bye week. We'll do a mock. We'll talk about where we're at with some of these grades and stuff going into the bye week, and we'll watch some other teams hopefully lose. Hopefully, love to see Minnesota lose. I'd love to see some of those.
I believe Minnesota plays Kansas City. No, it's Minnesota and Green Bay. So one of those two teams has to lose.
I'm rooting for Minnesota to lose.
Minnesota.
Yeah. Yep. I'll be curious to see who Danny picks in his Survivor League, because so far he's 0 for 2.
Now,
after telling me, Survivor's going to be so easy. All you have to do is pick whoever plays Carolina. And then he did. And then Andy Dalton came in and wrecked him.
On my mind. Yeah.
And then he's like, you got to save your good teams for later. I'm going to take Pittsburgh. And then they lose. So he has yet to pick a single winning team in the Survivor Pick'em. So,
well, I mean,
not talking a lot of shit anymore.
Justin Fields is so good, right? Just a career resurgence in Pittsburgh.
So, all right. Good chatting with you, Drew. It's always fun on a Victory Tuesday.
Yeah,
saw some new faces in chat, so appreciate that. That's awesome.
That's fun too.
Do the whole like, comment, subscribe stuff too. So tell your friends.
We'll see you guys next Tuesday. Can't wait to talk to you next week, Gosford. See you later, buddy.
All right. See y'all.